Welcome to Real Estate in the Tri-State, where we talk about all things buying, selling, and investing in the Dubuque area. Featuring experienced locals giving you their real estate insight. My name is Abby Rottler, and here is your host, my husband, Rob Rottler. Hey guys, Abby here. So, due to some internet issues, the beginning of this Zoom podcast did not record. So, I'm going to give our guest an intro, and then you will jump into the podcast right when the recording began. So, today's guest is a guy who imports and sells products at shows around the country. He takes his sales expertise and income into primarily real estate investments, where at a young age of 26 has built up a freaky impressive portfolio. He is mostly interested in buy and hold real estate deals, but has also dabbled in a few flips. He recently purchased a mid-size multifamily deal and is working on a wholesale deal as we speak. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Gracyalny.
55 units? Jeez.
Dude,
That's
so
a lot,
yeah. Now, and like, here's something that it doesn't really get talked about a lot, because there's a lot of the growth sounds, and on the surface it sounds very attractive. So when you're the kind of product that I'm buying is value add. So there's deferred maintenance. So there's repairs that need to be done. I just bought a triplex in January and just put a brand new roof on it. The garage door needs to be done. There's so much shit in that garage. It is $2,000 is the projected removal cost just to get all this stuff out of there.
Trash.
Literally, they had to grab a chain and attach it to the truck to pull stuff out because it was just wedged in there. They couldn't open the garage door. Even if you use a management company like I do, what happens is if you're in this value add real estate process where you're trying to grow the portfolio faster, you're trying to buy a fixer upper and you're trying to raise rents and realize more upside. What happens is the timeline to do that, you're sitting on those expenses because you don't have income coming in. If it's a 2-unit, a 3-unit, a 4-unit, or I have the 20 unit and all that, I have not seen income from it because the money's going right back into renovations. You know it going in, but it sounds more glamorous than what the process, the transition just takes time and money and effort. It is, you do it for the end of the day when it's stabilized and it's actually set and it's actually leased out and you have the deposits there and many of the items are renovated. So your repairs are theoretically less. That is why you do it, is for the long. So that middle transition process is just, it's messy and it's not fun to go through that. It's not that bad, but it sounds more glamorous to say 55 units than the actual process to get there. It's like, the iceberg when it shows success at the top and all the stuff in the middle. That stuff in the middle, that's what the real process of doing this is like. And it's fun. You need to be anyway, sorry, I'm going on tangents, but
no, it's great.
It sounds maybe better than what it is. There is equity there. And once everything is stabilized, it's going to be great. And that is what it is worth working for to get to that point.
So when you're looking to buy though, so you talk about value add, that's your thing. You want to be able to add value. You see the deferred maintenance, maybe some of the systems aren't well, the rent's too low. That's your ideal property. Are you looking at, what are some of the metrics you're looking at? Are you looking at cap rate? Are you looking at?
I like this question because there's something that also similar to that. I think there's the main two aspects that there's really three aspects that I look at, but the two of them kind of merge into one. One is a debt service coverage ratio. And for anyone that doesn't know, that's a ratio of if you take the actual income on the property, you net out all the expenses. So you have the rent amount, and then you take out a percentage for vacancy, repairs, property management, if there is any, utility costs, taxes, insurance. When you subtract all those out and you have that final number, that over whatever your mortgage is. So say if that number is $1,000 and your mortgage is $800, that would be a 1.25 debt service coverage ratio. And that means basically how much room do you have for error and still be able to cover your mortgage? Because most of us, when you're using debt, the risk, the leverage is the upside, and it's the two-edged sword of you need to make sure you cover that mortgage so you don't go into default. And that's the metric to be able to, banks look at that, and not many investors talk to them about that. Like when I talk to a bank and I'm like, hey, what debt service coverage ratio are you looking at? Many of them are at 1.25. And they're like, that's what that's our minimum target. And I'm like, great, because I don't look at anything less than 1.35. And they're like, oh, and it's very attractive for them because many investors don't
use those terms.
Talk about that.
Yeah. And that's what my commercial guy talks about too. That's his big number. That's his primary measurement too.
That's really the biggest one. And then from there, there's equity. It's got to have equity at the end of the day, especially in value add when you're putting a lot of time and energy and effort into it, and money that you'd like to see an immediate return. One thing that personally I like to look for is a 3 times multiple. So whatever my down payment is or the money that I'm going to have into the deal, I'd like to see a 3x multiple. So if I'm going to have 10 grand into a property, I'd like to see 30 grand in equity. So that it's really those two things. Those are the two main metrics.
Good deal. Now, for your whole portfolio, are you kind of bundled into a commercial deal where they kind of wrap them all into one big loan, I guess, or are you all individual?
They're all individual. Now that point will come when it's stabilized. So when the 20 units, so I'm just short of about halfway through those 20 units. So like, for example, like the original rents were literally, these are 2-bedroom units in a nice suburb of Green Bay. It's in De Pere. Attached garage. They're very well built. It's a great layout. And these 2-bedroom units were getting $550 in rent, which is in a good area is quite significantly under rented. Now those, the ones that we've renovated are getting $995. So there's a big gap there. And once you hit 5 units, I know, and I'm going to actually get into your answer. Once it's stabilized and they're all at where that market rent allows for, that's when the financing is just, you're done. You're not dumping more money into the property. You're set. And this is the equity you have in it. It's very easy to trade that with other banks. And, there may be a point down the road where if everything was stabilized, looking into something like that. But right now, everything's getting stabilized and I'm mid process on that. And so it's all with individual banks.
Gotcha.
Part of it too is being relationship based. If they're giving the front end of it, then I would prefer to, if they're helping get the deal done, I'd like to reward them with the back end and have them receive the interest income on the life of that loan.
For like a refinance situation you're talking about after all the repairs are done?
Yeah. After all the repairs are done, refinance, and it may not for exactly fall this way, but leaning towards keeping it with the banks that wrote the original loan, because they took the risk on the value add portion and then they get to receive the back end. And a degree of like loyalty, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you talk to a bunch of different banks to try and get these financed. What's your advice to someone who's looking to, maybe they need to find more banks or they need to talk to more lenders or they're looking to build those relationships? What's your advice to somebody who's looking to do that?
So as nearly all investors know, the credit unions and the local banks are going to be where you're going to want to go. Find the bank that has the loan product that you want and start building a relationship with them. So think about it. Like if someone's trying to get a loan from a bank and they're like, I want to invest in real estate, I want to get a loan. Flip the table. Imagine you're the bank. Who would you write a loan to? You'd want to have collateral on anyone that's lending money. They want collateral. So they have to find the asset attractive enough to write a loan on it. And their confidence in your ability to repay the loan. So if I give someone 10 grand for a loan, I'd want some collateral on that money if they don't repay, and I'd want to feel confident and underwrite them where they're going to pay back my 10 grand. How are they going to pay back the 10 grand? And so that can come from your personal financials, whether that's income, because a lot of underwriters are going to base on your income. But if the asset is attractive enough, I had a harder time getting my first duplex than I did getting financing on the 20 units. Like it is kind of strange.
Wow.
Which is cool, but it's kind of strange.
Yeah.
So if you want to develop, so then how do you develop a relationship and show that, you find an asset, you contract a property and you bring it to the bank. Well, so that's the asset piece, but then how can you give confidence besides your personal financials? Deposit money in the bank. Banks like to see deposits because they get a lend on those deposits, but it shows vested interest. I have a really good relationship with the lenders that I use, and they talk about there's a lot of especially newer investors that want to do these no money down deals, and they're not willing to put deposits in the bank. And they want a one-sided relationship. They want the bank to take the risk without the investor having to do anything for the relationship. You know what I mean? And it's life is a lot of give and take. So you put deposits in the bank, talk to the commercial lender, assuming you're doing an entity in an investment where you're going on the commercial side, and develop a relationship with the commercial lender. Yeah. And then strengthen your financials. And if you find a good enough deal, the confluence of those 4 items will make it much easier to get the financing arranged at the bank.
Yeah. Wow. Tons of good value there. I know, you hear about in podcasts and such that commercial lenders, they can be a little bit more flexible, right? They might weigh a little bit heavier on the asset itself versus the actual person. When you talk residential stuff, it's mostly based on the person's ability to repay.
Yeah.
A little bit different with the commercial, but I'm curious, I don't know if you know this, and we didn't talk about this. What is I know it's a lot based on the personal financial statement in terms of being able to repay, but for me, if there's 24 units for sale, a block away from me. And it's and it's 2.4 million, which I think is a little high, but if I went to the commercial lender who I have a relationship with, I have a couple deals with him. Wonder what he'd say about my personal financial statement. Cause I really don't feel like I could afford anything close to that, but dude, I mean, if the asset looks good, if I bring them all the papers and, I have a good relationship with them and the asset looks good, it's going to perform, it's going to cash flow. It's got that debt coverage ratio 1.3 or something like that.
Yeah.
I wonder what they really need in that personal financial statement. How far off am I? How much more money do I need? I don't know if you know the answer to that just with all your dealings with commercial lenders. But have any have said to you, like, I like the asset, but if only you had, an extra 30, 50 grand in your, liquid or something, then we'd be talking.
Reserves, they do like reserves, dude. And that's funny because it's like on that type of a deal, like if you're looking at a 20 unit or the 24 unit and it's 100 grand a unit and the math checks out on it, your personal, whatever income you make, your adjusted gross income on your tax return that you submit to the bank, they only weigh that so far. My tax return would not indicate even half of the real estate that I can buy. But when they factor in the rents and the leases that are on those buildings, that's where the whole picture can actually make sense. Because on the personal side, they just weigh very heavily on your personal financials. And it's on the commercial side that they take a holistic approach at the situation and what you've got going on and your capacity to, if there's this 24 unit deal, if it's a new investor and they've never done a deal before versus you that have done real estate before and you understand it better, they may have more weight to you doing it rather than someone who's never done a deal. Yeah. So they do take a semi common sense approach to this. The other thing that they're going to look at, because your personal financials or my personal financials, may not say, yes, my income can afford a $2.4 million mortgage. Mine can't. So
same.
But if you can have the down payment, or you can collect the down payment, or partner with someone, or bring someone in for the down payment, and the deal makes sense, and the bank feels confident in your ability to operate that deal, I don't think it would be that difficult to get the deal through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting. I should just start trying on these. Like, hey, here's where I'm at. Let me know, I don't know. It's interesting because I truly, yeah, I don't know. You got me thinking a lot there, talking about how you don't truly feel like, your personal financials should be able to afford your 55 units, but, there's way more to it. That's awesome. It's valuable. It's got me thinking, folks. Cool. So I definitely want to hit on like property management, because here in Dubuque, we do not have, like, it's a very, very low property management rate here in Dubuque. Almost everyone self-manages. There are some folks. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's not many vendors out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense for most.
Sounds like an opportunity for someone to step in that does a good job that they could do while doing it.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's an opportunity there. So you've always used property management, or is that something that you got into after a certain amount of units, or what?
It was pretty quick into it. So the first property was an owner occupied duplex, and so that I managed both sides. And so there basically been two properties that I've self-managed. One was that one, then another one is a property that Joe and I have that we've self-managed that, but everything else has been with management. It's because you can push up the margin when you don't have to pay that 10% or whatever it is. You can save that margin, and you just trade whatever degree of time and mental energy into running the deal properly. And you can do it. I think it's very good. That's one of the nice things is the flexibility behind real estate is you're not locked into one approach. There's not one. I like value-added real estate because that's what aligns with my goals. And other people pay retail because that aligns with their goals, and that's just fine. Same thing with property management. If you have the capacity and wherewithal mental wherewithal to deal with tenants, because some of them are completely normal and regular people, just like everyone else. And there's some people that are very excuse heavy and drama heavy, especially when you get to like C-class product. Like there's real drama. It's real you get more calls. It depends on your situation. If you want to do that to save the money and you just want to outwork your financial situation, especially on the early side when you're trying to grow, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm traveling a lot, like I'm in Sioux Falls, and I think that I would not do as good of a job as managing as paying someone a fee to do it the right way. But that's the thing, is like, even if whether you self-manage or use a property manager, like you can buy a good deal, and if you don't manage it well, the deals it eliminates the margin that you would have made, or it pushes it out where you're so inefficient that it takes 2 or 3 years to make up for it. And whether you manage yourself or you find a manager, do a good job, do a proper job, be reasonable. And you need to have you need to have an emotional capacity to, whether things are going well or if it's in a conflict situation, to be able to cut through a lot of those emotions and make a reasonable decision. That's really what it is. It's not that's what it is, but that's, I think, an important piece of the whole pie.
Yeah. And how do you, like, what are you looking for in a property management crew, and what are they doing for you? 10%, you said. I think 10% is what you could get around here, but I just don't think we're getting as much for it as what I hear maybe in some other markets when I listen to some national investment type stuff, bigger pockets and that sort of thing.
Yep.
What are you looking for? What has it done for you? Like,
It's the mental thing.
Yeah. Mental thing, time, like property management, I guess, in general.
Dude, it's twofold. And if you're investing in real estate, or you are running a business. That's what it is. Each building is a business. And if you're an entrepreneur, like you do not have to grow. If it aligns with your goals to have 1 or 2 or 3 properties, and that's what fits your situation, then that's great. And it depends on if you want to grow a lot, I think that your time is better spent finding the deal, or making as much money as possible to have reserves. Cause that's another thing is, anyway, I can go on about reserves, because reserves are really important. No money down real estate is great. Or you burr out and you refinance and you get your money back. That's great. But you need to have reserves, because if a roof goes out, you got to replace it, Yeah. And so reserves are important, but I'll digress from that. So a manager, they do everything pretty much from A to Z, at least around this market. But I think in almost every market, at least where there's a complete property management company, from leasing a vacant unit to they'll have maintenance, whether that's in-house or they just hire subs to do the maintenance, or if there's a turn and there's flooring and paint and light fixtures, countertops, kitchens, bathrooms, that they have the capacity to be able to do that, to the internal accounting, where it shows like income and then expenses, and then and then they deposit the money in your bank account. And then if there's any maintenance requests, like dealing with the tenants contact the property manager. They don't call you. So they pretty much do everything from A to Z. Now for like a quality what I think it does is 2 things. One is the actual time for doing the activities, from leasing to showing the unit to maintenance to whatever. They just handle all of that, however many minutes or hours that takes up. But the other one, and I think is arguably larger, is the mental space. if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're trying to grow, then you need to have the mental freedom to just focus on what's the most important thing to move the needle in your business. And that's what you need, the mental space to be able to do that. And if you get bogged down by too many details, it's much more, it's not impossible, but it's much more difficult to do that. So I think that those are the two biggest benefits of using a property management company. Again, fitting what is right for each individual or family.
Yeah. Wow. It sounds so nice, to just take care of the leasing, all the maintenance,
Wouldn't it?
And then you get a phone call with anything big, right? Any big CapEx stuff, like you get a phone call and yeah. Wow. That'd be sweet.
And that's it. It's a phone call, man.
Yeah.
Imagine how many podcasts you'd be able to.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. So acquiring properties, you talked about mailers a little bit earlier. You want to go into a little bit more on like how you market for more properties, how you're looking for them, how you're getting them, your process, are you walking through the house? What are you doing?
So finding the lead.
You said this earlier. This is one of your favorite parts, right? Finding the deals.
Dude, I am a marketing guy. I love the deal process. I don't want to manage. I don't know construction. I tried like moving a lamp for this podcast and I think I cracked it trying to like adjust it. So I'm not a construction guy.
Yeah. That's great. Oh yeah.
So, like, I have stories like you. Anyway, doesn't matter. So the actual lead process is a number of deals that I've found have been on the MLS, actually. There are deals with Corona the 6 unit in October. That was the second to last MLS deal. The triplex, well, that was a portfolio and it was kind of a unique situation. They only had one inspection time and that's it. So it's like there were very few people that were actually there. So that was like kind of allowed for an MLS deal. And this time it's just very tight right now. It's just very tight on the MLS. But historically, a number of these properties have been from the MLS. And then a few have been from mail. So you find the list, and that's part of if there's anything that's proprietary for a real estate investor, I think that the list is one of the things that is quite valuable, the quality of the list, because everyone sends mail and there's a lot of emphasis on using the right mail piece, but I think that is misplaced energy. I think that the most important thing is getting a quality list. The better the list that you have, you just want your mail piece. If you're doing direct mail, you want your mail piece to be in front of the seller's eyeballs when they're considering, maybe I might actually want to sell this property. You just want yours present. And the quality of the list will dictate, are you sending 1,000 pieces of mail to hit 5 people that might be real potential, or 2 or 15? You know what I mean? So the quality of the list is what it goes down to on the mail side. But then so Joe and I, we flipped a few homes from sheriff sales. One we lost probably like 20 grand on. And then another one, we made a couple thousand, but there's people that just do a lot of sheriff sales. I bought a deal from a wholesaler, but the heavy majority has been MLS, and then more recently, a few from direct mail. And I think you're able to ebb and flow a bit between the lead source based on what's going on in the environment. Right now, it's really hot, so it's hard to find stuff in the MLS. So you don't have to go off market, but if you're trying to find some like real equity in deals or buy something at 80 cents, 70 cents, 60 cents on the dollar, Like you got to go off market to find those deals because it'll be very rare. They can come on the MLS, but they'll be gone right away. And it's more difficult to do that. So you got to find your own deals.
Yeah. Great stuff. And we are coming close to the time. I do need to talk to you about house hacking because I know this is huge for you. And what do you say about house hacking? What has it done for you? How do you?
People should house hack. It will accelerate a normal person's financial situation for about a decade. It will literally accelerate your financial life about a decade. And you do it multiple times. You will do a lot of growth just in your personal financial situation. House hacking, love it. Whether it's a duplex, 3-unit, 4-unit, whatever. I think what's really going to happen, like the one of the 10,000 foot view, well, maybe not 10,000, but 1,000 foot view. We'll go with 1,000 is we're going to look back in 20 years and we're going to say, I wish I would have bought as much property as I could have possibly gotten. And there's an appropriate amount because if you get over leveraged, you don't want to take the risk of having too much mortgage and not enough reserves. Or you're trying to just buy a deal because you want a deal and it doesn't actually cash flow. The debt service coverage ratio is 1.1 and you're banking on rent raises. You're banking on the market continuing to go up to bail you out. And it's just a risky situation. So I think it's the right time to avoid those specific deals. But 1,000 foot view, we're going to look back and say, I wish I would have bought as much real estate as I could. And house hacking is a very easy way to get your foot in the door, especially for newer investors, because it's just a lower out of pocket. You can get a 3.5% down, 5%, 10% down. You don't need 20 or 25% down. You can get in for lower money. So if you don't have as much or you're saving and you're trying to build your personal portfolio, it's a great way to get your foot in the door. You save your housing expense, which is tremendous. You learn how to do it. There are a lot of long-term benefits to it that are more impactful than the direct, I'm living for free. That is it's real and it's great. It's great. But the long-term benefits of getting your foot in the door, especially for someone who's never bought a piece of real estate, it all starts with one, and everyone starts with one. And I started with one. And when I was doing I feel my gut is telling me to share this. So like when I started, the whole point of doing trade shows was to buy real estate. And the two biggest pain points that I had in my life was not having real estate. Like, because I was trying to, when you're self-employed, banks want 2 years of tax returns. I've now realized there's ways to work through that. So I could have done this differently. But at the time, that's what I knew. And that's the best decision I made with what I knew. And one was not having real estate. And the other was basically just feeling really alone. And that's part of the entrepreneurship journey is that you put in the work. It is delayed gratification. All of this, it is for the cherry at the end. And now I've seen over the last year more of the back end and the front end. That first property, the fear, all the hopes and excitement and anxiety, and like, what if this goes really well? What if this doesn't? And everything in all of that combined, the sum of all of those thoughts. Now, being 4 years on the back end of that, and all the learning and growth and stability that's come from that, is absolutely worth it. It was a lot of hard work. Man, it was a lot of hours. It was a lot of hours, Rob. It was a lot of work. And I wouldn't recommend entrepreneurship for most people because it's tough. But it is fun and you have great experiences and you meet incredible people. And it's like, it creates the capacity to live multiple lifetimes in one. And
wow,
it's it's worth it. And it's more the front side. You don't have to sacrifice that hard. It's a sliding scale. You can work really hard and sacrifice hard to accelerate, instead of saying, hey, I want to be financially free in 15 years or 20 years. I want to do it in 4 years. You can do that. And you just have to sacrifice harder to do that. And you just need to be cognizant of, is it worth it? Yes or no? And only you can make that decision. So it's a sliding scale, and you have the choice over that. So sorry, I don't mean to be long-winded, and I hope I'm not being too like preachy, because I don't mean that. But
dude,
I think it's relevant.
We can feel the passion, man. We can feel it. It's great. Gosh, good stuff. What a pleasure, man, to sit down and talk with you. I do have some closing questions. Can't forget those.
Yes, sir.
Number 1, what is your favorite book?
All right. Recently read the book What It Takes by,
Forgot.
Blackstone. The guy started Blackstone. Massive, like what the second biggest, or after the Catholic Church, I believe the biggest real estate owner in the world. What It Takes.
What It Takes.
Oh man. Sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the guy, but What It Takes. If anyone looks it up on Amazon, I've given this out to a bunch of people.
Steven Schwarzman.
Yes, David Schwartzman. Yep.
I haven't read it yet.
David Schwartzman. It's very good. My favorite book.
Wow.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad is close second.
Of course. We could not get to a podcast with a real estate investor without that being mentioned.
Right.
Very good. What are your hobbies?
I love to work out right after this and go into the gym. Quality time with people that are important. You know, that's the point of real estate, is to create freedom and go skiing and go to the beach, but also like buying real estate's fun. But that's what I'd like to do is, or that's what I do like to do, is spend time with people that are important, family, friends, work out, read books. I used to watch a lot of like shows like Netflix and The Office and that kind of stuff. Game of Thrones. I like doing some of that.
Good stuff, man. If you had to point to the one thing you either learned, developed, or were just born with that makes you successful, what would that be?
Failure does not exist. You either win or you learn. Sorry, your smirk made me smirk. Your smile made me smile. No, but seriously,
it's good.
Failure, you only fail when you stop. If everything that happens in our life is information. If you feel satisfied about something, that is positive reinforcement. If you feel dissatisfied about something, that's information that there's something that you want to adjust. And if everything is just information that you learn from, where if you could do it over again and you would receive a different outcome, or just come with a different perspective, then I think that is, I love to learn. I love challenges. I sit in the sauna for as long as possible to say it's not that hot. It's the mental discipline, challenges.
I too like to burn it out in the sauna.
What do you think about sauna or steam room?
I've experienced both. Recently, I've been only doing the sauna because that's what my gym has. I really like the steam room though.
Steam room, it hits you. It like slaps you right away. You walk in there and it's like boom, and then the sauna, you walk in and it's like it's the cat. You're the lobster in the boiling pot. Yeah. Whereas in the steam room, it's like you get in a sumo wrestling pit and the guy like,
yeah. That's exactly it. Oh yeah, man. I got to get back in a steam room. Great. Who is someone you're wanting to meet?
I would be delighted to meet Ray Dalio. He's started one of the most successful hedge funds out there. He's a very smart guy. He makes principle-based decisions. And it would just be an absolute honor to meet that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a legend. I have his book sitting over here staring at me, still needing to be read.
What do you have?
His book. Principles.
What do you have? Oh, really?
Ray Dalio.
Okay.
His book. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone turns this around to you, man, but who would you meet if you could meet anyone?
Oof. If they're still living, I would probably go Warren Buffett, and then I would go Joe Rogan. Love Joe.
Both are great, and they're both really funny. Warren Buffett's a pretty witty guy. I mean, he's obviously really smart, but he's a witty guy.
Yeah,
he's funny.
What are you currently focusing on, and how can the listeners help you?
I want to buy more multifamily. So, in alignment with that, it would be if there's 5+ units. So, like, I'm in Green Bay, and I'm assuming a lot of your audience is in that tri-state area. But if anyone has any 5-unit or larger multifamily deals, I'll get them taken care of. If it's something that they don't have the wherewithal or they want to learn the process, or whatever, if you bring me a deal and I close on it, I'll get them taken care of. But either that or investors, there's going to be a tipping point where I only have so much money. And so if I run out, or I need to keep it for reserves, and there's just more deals than money, then if anyone wants to participate in some of these deals, then there may be a capacity to get people involved. If they could, to be honest though, because everyone's looking for deals. The real answer to that is if they invest in themselves, if they listen to this podcast, they're going to learn and they're going to grow and keep moving forward and place a foot in front of each other and place a foot in front of the other. And so if they could do anything for me, to be honest, it would be just if they listen to this podcast, that will allow them to further themselves. And I think that that's one of the most beautiful things that this world can have, is just more people just doing the best they can.
Such a thoughtful answer, and like value to the listener answer. I tee it up there. Like, that's one of my questions that I like kind of tee it up for you to be selfish and like, what do you need? How can we help? And then you turn that around to add value to people. Whew. It's crazy. You're a wizard. I tell you what, though.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I tell you what, if I have $50K sitting around and I heard this podcast with Kevin Gracyalny, I'd probably be calling Kevin Gracyalny like, hey, man, get me in on your next deal. Here's $50K. Good deal. Last question. Where are you going to take Joe vacationing this year?
Oh, so we went to Vegas in August of last year. We've gone down to Florida, and there's so many things. Honestly, it would be very likely Vegas. Vegas or tropical. Those are the main things. This year, it will likely be Vegas again, is what I would anticipate doing later on this year.
November 11th. There's a real estate seminar out there in Vegas. We're going.
Dude, I can't. The best show that I do all year is a Christmas show. It's down in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it's like the 10th through the 20th, like right in there. It's a great show, but I'm always tied up then. But I know.
We need to go to some seminar or something, Bigger Pockets or some.
That'd be awesome.
Some real estate seminar. Joe, Rob, and Kevin, take it on.
We should connect more, man. I'd love that. That'd be great.
Absolutely, man. How can people learn?
Can I throw one other thing out there?
Yeah.
Because I really don't mean to be long-winded. So, but the number one thing that's made it comes back to the question that you asked earlier of like, you either win or you learn. That learning piece, when you can have tools at your disposal, that's where success comes from, is you're able to recognize the opportunity and then you do something with it. If your listeners, if they really, I know I just said this, but if they dive into educating and learning how to do it, and then they have that 50 grand in the bank, they should spend that on marketing, and they should find their own deals. They will you will accelerate your financial path, especially if you only have so much money. Do your own deals. In my opinion, you're going to ride that money. It's going to accelerate into a larger number faster than if you try to ride someone else's deal. So educate yourself, learn how to be competent in this field, and just invest the money that you've got into marketing, find the off-market deals, and that's where you're going to accelerate and grow much faster.
That's great advice. Yeah, I agree that, the more you can do yourself, better return. How can people learn more about you or contact you or find you on Instagram? All of the above.
Let's see. So Facebook and Instagram, I'm Kevin Gracyalny. That's Gracyalny, although it might be in the show name. So that was kind of redundant.
That's good. But
feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I love talking to people, and I drive a lot too. So today, 7.5 hours. I spent probably 4.5 hours of that on the phone with people. So, feel free to reach out to me, Instagram, Facebook, or shoot me an email. The Instagram and Facebook is probably going to be better, but I do check my emails all the time. It just might get lost in. My email is kevin@Gracy, that's GRACY.WS. So kevin@Gracy.WS. It's S as in Sam. And feel free to reach out if there's anything I can do to help.
Really appreciate you being on today, man. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for your time, Rob. I love what you're doing, and this was great. So thank you.
We'll be staying in touch. Yes. Listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Real Estate in the Tri-State. Thank you for listening, subscribing, sharing, all the above. I really appreciate you doing that. And with that, we are out.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Real Estate in the Tri-State. We want to encourage all of our listeners to send in any and all real estate questions to us at rottlerpodcast@gmail.com. More details in our show notes.
And as always, let's have a great day, folks.